He wasn't allowed to be in that field, but he went anyway, and the detector started beeping. Gold, one coin, then another, and another. What was hidden under that field wasn't a small collection lost for centuries. It was a fortune. Hundreds of gold coins that had been out of the world for more than 2,000 years. How did that much gold end up there? The hoard would go on to be recognized as the largest Iron Age gold coin hoard ever found in Britain. But there was a problem, and it started the moment the gold came back to the surface. The find wasn't initially reported under the Treasure Act. For archaeology, that matters for a reason that goes beyond paperwork. When something spends over 2,000 years buried, the exact spot, the position of the objects, everything around them, all of it can preserve parts of the story the object itself can't tell. Remove it without recording the context, and some of that information is gone forever. The gold survived. But part of the story around it, maybe not. The original hoard included 933 coins. Dating placed them somewhere between 60 and 20 BC. And there was a pattern too strong to ignore. Of the 933 coins, 930 were identified as Whaddon Chase type staters from eastern Britain. Almost the entire hoard following a single dominant type. That changes the nature of the investigation. If these were random pieces gathered by chance, they'd just be an enormous concentration of wealth. But when nearly the whole set shows this kind of consistency, the quantity stops being merely impressive. It starts carrying information. Why would someone hide that much wealth? A reserve meant to be recovered later? A ritual deposit? An offering? Some political decision? It was still too early to settle on an answer, because there was an earlier question. Before knowing why that gold was buried, we needed to know where it came from. Great Baddow sits in an area traditionally considered Trinovantian territory, but most of the coins appeared to have been minted in a region associated with a different group, the Catuvellauni, a difference that at first glance seems like a minor classification detail. It isn't, because now we had two pieces of information pointing in different directions. On one side, the predominant origin of the coins, tied to the Catuvellauni. On the other, the spot where hundreds of them ended up buried, in Trinovantian territory. The field stopped being just a place where a hoard was found. It became a clue. Something set that gold in motion. We don't know if it happened all at once. We don't know who controlled that movement. But the mismatch between the coins and the territory opens up a bigger possibility. Maybe we weren't just looking at hidden wealth, but at material evidence of power relations between communities in Britain shortly before the Roman conquest. And there's a reason this period draws so much attention. The coins date to between 60 and 20 BC, a window in which tensions in southeastern Britain also show up in a written account from outside the island. In 54 BC, Julius Caesar led a campaign into Britain. In his account, conflict involving Cassivellaunus and the Trinovantes, with Mandubratius caught in the middle, ending in the imposition of tribute. On one side, a Roman source describing conflict and tribute. On the other, hundreds of gold coins buried in a politically charged landscape, with this mismatch between origin and location. It's hard not to wonder if the two are connected, but this is exactly where we need to respect the most important limit of the investigation. There isn't enough evidence to claim these coins were meant for Caesar. The hoard can't be presented as the tribute from the Roman account. It's a possible hypothesis within the discussion, not a solution. More than 2,000 years after someone carried gold to that spot, in 2026, archaeologists returned to the same ground, trying to find what the original discovery had failed to preserve. The investigation involved Archaeology Southeast from UCL. The site underwent a geophysical survey, led by Dr. Chris Lockyer. Then came the excavation, with Rob Cullum involved. This time, the goal wasn't simply to find valuable objects. It was to recover context, to look for signs in the soil, structures, any evidence that could explain why that specific spot received such an extraordinary concentration of gold. And the field delivered something. More gold, one coin, then another. 933 became 935. But despite the new investigation, no structures or conclusive evidence turned up to explain the burial. The two coins grew the hoard. They didn't solve its mystery. We have 935 coins. We have their dating. We have an extraordinarily consistent predominant type. We have the place where they were found. We have the mismatch between the region tied to the coin's production and the territory where they were buried. We have a period of political tension. We even have a Roman account describing conflict and tribute. And still, we don't have the one thing that seemed most important from the start: the motive. So maybe the question needs to change. Not why were these coins buried, but what can we actually claim even without knowing who buried the gold? And this is where 935 coins start to be worth far more than gold. They form an exceptional concentration of material evidence from a period of political transformation, with a striking predominance of a single type. Set in a landscape where the relationship between coin origin and burial territory raises questions about circulation, wealth, and power. Caesar's account is text. The great Whaddon Hoard is matter. Neither one needs to prove the other. Between the words of a Roman source and hundreds of objects that survived underground lies a society far more complex. People trading, accumulating wealth, contesting power, moving gold between territories, decisions that never reached us in writing. If you enjoy discoveries where small pieces of evidence open up enormous questions about the past, subscribe to Rediscovered Secrets and turn on notifications. There are still many stories waiting to be rediscovered with us. Someone came to that field carrying an extraordinary fortune, put it into the ground, and never came back for it. We don't know the name, we don't know the reason. The exact circumstances were lost, but the decision remained. In the form of 935 small pieces of gold evidence, the gold went out of circulation, the person vanished from history. Centuries passed, and the gold remained. Maybe we'll never know why someone buried that fortune. But more than 2,000 years later, we can still investigate the decision. The people disappeared, the gold survived. And with it, survived a small piece of the story they could never tell us.